Welcome back to St Anne's here in Higher Openshaw, and a very happy and holy new year to you all. Some of you may know that I have become involved in Britain's newest Catholic radio station. It's an internet radio station called Heavens Road FM. And if you would like to have a look at Heavens Road FM, if you put it into Google or any of the search engines, just put in Heavens Road FM, it comes up, top of the page, you press on that and it will take you to the home page. I have recorded a couple of shows for them already, but I have decided that any show that I put out for them, I will also put onto our website so that you will be able to hear the kind of things that are being put out nationally. Today I have made a recording with Sister Rita and the work that she has done in the Lalley Centre. So here it is, and I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Father Jim Clark Show, broadcasting on behalf of Heavens Road FM here in my office in Manchester. One of the things that I said in my last broadcast was that the Catholic Church, by its very nature, does an awful lot of very good charitable work in the world. And it was said recently that if you put all the charitable organisations together, all of them, actually, the Catholic Church is doing more than the lot of them. And we all hear about things like Comic Relief and Red Nose and the NSPCC. But actually, the Catholic Church just quietly gets on diligently doing all kinds of things right round the world. Charitable things that people never hear of. We in St Anne's here in Manchester, we have our own personal private charity that we deal with, and it is the Good Life Orphanage, which is an orphanage that was built by two friends of mine from Bolton, and they were out on simply on a family holiday in Kenya. They saw a great need and decided to go back out and build an orphanage, which is now up and running. It looks after 60 children. They also have, since finishing the buildings for the orphanage, have actually built a school for 350 children, some of the poorest children in Africa, probably the poorest children in the world. But that's just one thing that nobody really hears about. But there are many things like that going on. So today I have invited along Sister Rita Lee. She is a member of the Presentation Convent here in Manchester, and Sister Rita also saw a need for something in Manchester, and as part of the Salford Diocese Caritas charitable scheme, she has put together a thing called the Lalley Centre. And I would like to invite Sister Rita to answer a few questions as to perhaps why she saw the need for such a setup in Manchester, what the Lalley Centre has done, and actually how it has grown since the introduction of it some years ago. So we'll now bring in Sister Rita Lee. Good morning, Sister Rita.
Good morning, Father.
Just to explain to you, Sister, one of the reasons I've brought you in today is that I've been talking about the Catholic Church and the amount of work that it does very quietly and very diligently throughout the world. And you are very local to us here in Manchester. So I was just wondering, really, why the Lalley Centre? What was it that you spotted in Manchester that needed the Lalley Centre? So if you can explain to us, first of all, the need, and then explain to us what the Lalley Centre is and what it does.
Okay, well, Collyhurst is the area where we're based. And statistically, Collyhurst is the third poorest area in Europe. So we thought that would be a very good place to start. We being the Catholic Children's Rescue Society, which I worked for at that time. First of all, we needed a premises, and we needed to sort of think about what kind of a service did we wish to provide. We found the premises in the basement of one of our Catholic schools, St. Malachy's, which I have to say at the time you didn't need to think safeguarding and you didn't need to think health and safety the way you had to think today. So we approached the head teacher and she was very happy to allow us to begin our work there. Did we know what we were going to do? No, we didn't. We hadn't a clue. We thought best thing was to go there, clear the place up, which needed a lot of clearing up, and then wait for the people to visit and tell us how we should proceed. And that's what we began with.
Okay, so how long ago was that?
About 8 years ago.
8 years, gosh. I remember coming in to see you in those early days when you were doing the cleaning up, and it must be said that there's an amazing difference between what was happening then and what was happening now. The other thing that was very interesting, if you weren't completely sure about what the role of the Lalley Centre was going to be, how did you get the message out there to the people that you were at St Malachy's and that you were available to the poor?
Well, I guess we always use our local resources, like the school, telling the parents through letters, and like the local parishes, putting it into the newsletter. Well, I have to tell you, for this first 6 months, nobody came.
Oh dear.
And I think this is something that we Catholics have to be very much aware of. When God is leading us, sometimes we have to wait, and sometimes we have to wait in the darkness like we did. And we had about 6 volunteers sitting there, looking at one another, wondering, waiting until something happened. Very, very slowly people came in because we had advertised a sort of advice and information.
Right.
So when they came in, obviously you always offer hospitality and friendship and a smile, and that is, to me, one of the most important areas of any service that you do. So it began like that, very, very slowly.
Okay. So over the 8 years, I myself have popped in a few times, and I have seen a massive change in the Lalley Centre from those very early days. I think the last time I was in, it seemed to be absolutely heaving. And there was also something new which I hadn't seen before, which was at the bottom of the steps there was the kind of a food bank. So just explain to our listeners how it's changed over the years and how the clientele has grown in number and I suppose in diversity as well, and also the kind of things now that you're able to offer.
Okay, well, excuse me, as I said previously, we listened to what they told us. And one of the things was, when they came in the early days, they were saying that they had no food. They were struggling for food. And I'm going back quite a bit now, which was a shock to me. And because they told us this, I explored a charity called Fair Share. A lot of your listeners may have heard of this. And Fair Share is a huge franchise throughout the country, actually, who offer food to charities. They don't offer it to individuals, Right. They offer it to charities. Now, I approached them and they came in and inspected the premises and they agreed to supply us with a very small supply of food each week. It started there. But you know that the whole climate in our country has changed now. And today people will tell you they either have heat or they eat. They can't have both. And I know this for a fact because people come in because they want to get warm and they're worried about their children being cold. And we have not got a budget to help people to get heat. But, there are times when I might get some donations and I would actually take their gas card. I wouldn't give them money and put some money on it and give it back to them. So we have now kind of widened what we do, and that's thanks to the SVP, St Vincent de Paul.
All right.
We actually can get furniture, especially beds. You will find people coming in all the time. They haven't got beds, they haven't got settees. And we approach the SVP, who are wonderful to us. And fortunately for us, they only live down the road in a premises quite near us. And in the same premises, we have the Catholic Needlework Guild. And they offer layettes for new babies, sometimes prams, clothes for children. So we can access all this very, very easily.
Very good. I know that you yourself are a trained social worker, but I also know that on your staff you've offered all kinds of things over the years. I even remember coming in one day and there was some kind of nail boutique going on. That was
That actually we have every week.
Really?
And it's courtesy of Zest, which is one of the local council organisations, and they also would supply us every week with fresh fruit for people. But we also have a London firm now who brings in boxes and boxes of fruit every week for us to make sure people have fresh fruit, which is quite expensive, really.
Of course it
normally.
Is. I would think that things like fresh fruit would be low on the kind of clientele that you're talking about, would be low on their agenda, because it's not, the staple things are the things that they need, which quite often is junk food. So it's a very healthy thing that you're able to offer them by the sounds of it.
Well, they will tell you that they couldn't buy fruit normally.
Right.
So when they come to the Lalley Centre and the fruit is there, I have to say in abundance, they are thrilled to bits. And their children who are with them will eat the fruit even as they're there.
Yeah.
Because we offer tea, coffee and toast free of charge to them. And a lot of them are waiting 8:30, 8 o'clock to try and get in for their breakfast because they wouldn't have food at home.
I've noticed on the news that there's been many reports about the food banks all around the country and about the huge increase that there's been over the last maybe 18 months, 2 years. Have you found that as well in Manchester?
I have found that, but my business is not about feeding people only. It's the old adage we had from Caffin years ago. Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a meal. Teach a man how to fish and you feed him for life. So every person that comes through the Lalley Centre has to be assessed by me.
Ooh.
Well, I don't want them exploiting us,
right.
And I want them to better and increase their own quality of life.
Yeah.
I want to know who lives in their house. I want to know have they a job. I want to know when they last worked. Now, one of the things we do together when we're having this assessment is I would set some very simple tasks for them. For example, do they go to the job clubs? And if they don't, they have to come to the Lalley Job Club. We have one on a Thursday afternoon every week. And it's easier than going to the job clubs because it's not as packed and they can have tea and coffee and a chat and they're given their own computer to look for work. Right. Or their medical condition, you have to be in to see the doctor, are they depressed? I want to find out what's going on in their lives because I don't just think we should feed people. We should try to improve their lives.
Have you got counsellors on site to be able to help people that might need that kind of help?
Well, whilst I could do that myself, I would rather not. I haven't the time. So I send them quite easily to a variety of counsellors available to us around the area. As I would send people who come in with immigration problems to Revive, which is one of our own Catholic charities.
Yeah. I've been involved with the Revive myself over the years. Being in a parish very close to the centre of Manchester, certainly 8 years ago when I came here, there were a lot of people from the Congo, a lot of people from Africa that were kind of looking for citizenship here, and sadly over the years they have vanished in great numbers. I presume that the government have put the foot down like they've promised us, and those people, I know some of them personally who have been kind of whipped out of their beds at 3 o'clock in the morning and have been, put back on a plane to Africa. So Revive is one of those, again, a great part of the Catholic network that is doing work to help on that side.
That's right.
Well, I mean, I'd just like to thank you now for coming in to give us some of your time. I know that over the years that I've seen the Lalley Centre changing, like you said, I remember in those first few months that you were setting up, it seemed very quiet. and 8 years. I didn't realise it had been 8 years, but certainly 8 years later. I think you open 2 days a week in the beginning. Do you open 3 now? I think?
Yes, and we're continuing to grow now because we'll teach English as a first language to people.
Ah, very good. So it seems to me that, I mean, you're expanding the kind of things that you're offering almost, as the need arises.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, like many people in the Catholic Church, you yourself should be commended for the work that you've done. Because one of the things that I've started off with saying on this podcast is that the Catholic Church just gets on with doing this work just quietly and nobody ever hears about it, really.
No.
And just while I've got you here, would this surprise you if I told you? Somebody recently said that if you put every charitable organisation in the world together, all of them, the Catholic Church does more than all of them put together. Did you know that?
I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
And you must remember that I don't run the Lalley Centre on my own. I have wonderful volunteers.
Right.
And all their commitments and their beliefs come together to make the Lalley what it is today.
Well, I hear very good things about the Lalley Centre, it being very welcoming and people not afraid to go to the Lalley Centre, which I think is a bit of a problem with some of these places, especially where people are poor and, you walk into a place and the first thing is you walk through the door and people know I'm poor.
Yes.
And I think that can be quite a stigma.
Yes.
But I hear good things about the Lalley Centre, that people are very welcome.
They are. Can I just finish on this note, Father? Because to me it's the most important thing really that's happening at the Lalley Centre. Some time ago we had a training day and I invited one of the visitors in, but we wanted to know how it felt as you come in the door and the feelings he had. And one of the things, before I start always with the volunteers, we pray together. And after the meeting, this gentleman came to me and he said, "Why do you pray with the volunteers, but you never pray with us, the visitors?"
Interesting.
And I tried to explain to him that, it's not that easy because we have Muslims, Jewish, non-religious people. We have every creed and race coming into the Lalley. And some people would see this as a threat. And he said, well, would you allow me to go around and ask the people what they would like? And a week later he came back and he said, every single person wants to pray together before we start the day. I found that very, very moving. And I had written years ago a prayer under the statue of Our Lady in Lourdes. And I wanted it to be a prayer for all nations and all peoples. So that is the prayer we start. Every one of them will sit there as quietly as possible and say the prayer as we begin. To me, that's a miracle. It's a miracle of our Christian faith. It's a miracle of God coming among his people. And where I'm scared to do things, they're not scared to tell me to get on and do it.
Again, that's a kind of a wonderful thing to hear, really. And I often say, you hear me preaching all the time here, that that people are looking for God.
They are.
In whatever way. Sometimes they get it wrong, they go looking down the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But obviously the Lalley Centre is a place where God is able to focus on his people, and that's a wonderful thing.
Well, I have to say it's not down to me, is it? Because I was too scared. So you people out there, don't be scared to spread your faith and spread the love of God, really.
Thank you, Sister, very much indeed.
Thank you, Father.
So that was Sister Rita Lee from the Presentation Convent in Audenshaw in Manchester. And I'd like once again just to thank Sister for her time. As you can see, there are many, many small, almost delicate organisations within the umbrella catchment of the Catholic Church which do all kinds of wonderful work. And much of this work never makes the front of the press, never makes the news on the television, nobody ever hears about it, but it's there and it just does the work quietly and gets on with it. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about the Catholic Church. I know over the past few years we've had some dreadful kind of headlines about the Church, but the Church is an incredible institution. It's a great family which is, of course, brought together under the auspices of our God. And it's an interesting thing that, since Pope Francis became Pope, he has become a real focus of the world's press. And the world's press all of a sudden is saying that, that Pope Francis single-handedly is rejuvenating the Catholic faith. Well, he's certainly a great ambassador, and the work that he's doing is amazing. But it's not true that he's reinvigorating the church. The church has always been there. It's always been doing such fantastic work. It's just that the press are not that interested. It's only since the likes of Pope Francis has arrived that they've been able to focus on this man, because he will sell papers, because, his face on the front of their newspapers is news. But that's not really how the Catholic Church normally works. The Catholic Church just gets on with itself. So we do thank God for the Holy Father and the kind of interest that he has sparked back in the Catholic faith. But let's not forget, as Catholics, we are doing fantastic work all of the time, in every parish and in every country, all around the world. It's a great thing to think about. God bless us all. Until next time, this is Father Jim Clark, signing off for Heaven's Road FM.